Could you talk a bit about how your life changed through the symbolic world in particular? Like the work you were doing.
Yeah, well, it was the symbolic world stuff is really in some ways a surprise, I would say a surprise that I was ready for in some ways, because I'd been working on these things for a long time. And, both Matthieu and I had been thinking about these things and meditating on them. And so when it really was Jordan Peterson. It's like I met Jordan Peterson and I felt like he was a bridge, that I could see that in some ways he was, think about it really like that. Like Matthieu has these very, very pure insight, and I have a more mitigated insight that is in some ways more connected to the world. And Jordan is way more connected to the world. Like, so it's kind of like buffers. You can see it like steps. And so that's how I see it. And in some ways, it took years for Jordan to even see Matthieu. Like, he just couldn't see him. I tried to convince him for years to read Matthieu's book. I was always talking about Matthieu, and I was like, "You got to read his book." And I was trying to, and but he's like, he couldn't see him. He did an interview with Matthieu early on, and then he forgot that he had done it. And I could tell during the interview and watching it afterwards that Jordan couldn't fully see what it was that Matthieu had to offer. That's the best way to understand it. And so I think that so the symbolic, so meeting him, and then him in some ways being that final bridge into popular culture, that's the way that I perceived it. Very soon, very quickly, I saw it that way. In some ways, that Jordan was a bridge for the symbolic ideas that was closer to science, closer to popular culture, closer to the secular world that people could understand. And then, yeah, and then the surprise of it, like working out, like of people all of a sudden now being capable of understanding these things, being willing to pay attention to them, being willing to understand them. And so my life has changed radically since then. It's been a while. We started, like, what is it, like 6 or 7 years ago now, is that right? It's 2016 is when the first time I talked with Jordan Peterson. So that's like almost 7 years ago, which seems crazy now to think that it's been that long. But my carving is almost stopped. Like, I don't really carve much anymore. I used to write a lot within the church. I used to write for the Orthodox Arts Journal. That was the main place where I wrote. I'd written over 100 articles for the Orthodox Arts Journal before starting the Symbolic World stuff. So that has changed quite a bit. And so I'm more on the secular side in some ways. I've taken on certain imageries that had keep me more with one foot in the secular world and then one foot in the church. But it's a crazy time. It's like it's wild. When I stop to think about the fact that now, like, Matthieu and I can talk about these things and people actually know what we're talking about. That's crazy. Like, you don't know how we used to have conversations, Matthieu and I, that everybody would think we were just insane. People around us would just back off, and they would just stop engaging with us because they felt either alienated because they didn't know what we were talking about, or they just thought we were crazy, or whatever it was. But it was impossible to really connect outside of our own discussions, at least with very few people. And so now it's a weird time, because now there's like thousands and thousands of people that kind of get it. And I'm surprised every time. Sometimes I read YouTube comments. I'll read comments on the Symbolic World group or whatever, and I'm like, wow, like, this person gets it. Like, they really understand it. And I'm like, it's exciting and it's surprising. And then and then you see people going to church, and a lot of Orthodox churches have these young guys coming in. It's obviously not just me, but like, I know that the Symbolic World is part of some of their journey. And it's like, wow, that's wild. It's hard to totally understand how it happened, but it's glory to God is all I can say. And in this case.